Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Aliens laughed at human myths until one soldier spoke the truth. The first tendrils of dawn crept across the ruined skyline of what was once San Francisco. Raven Martinez adjusted her worn tactical goggles, scanning the horizon where massive alien extraction platforms dominated the landscape. 5 years had passed since the Nexus Collective arrived, transforming Earth from a vibrant planet to a resource-harvesting zone. Raven's fingers traced the edge of her communication device, a modified piece of technology that had become her lifeline. Around her, the abandoned research facility hummed with a carefully maintained network of salvaged electronics. She was no ordinary resistance fighter. She was a strategist who understood that humanity's survival depended on more than just brute force. A soft tap interrupted her thoughts. Kai Nakamura entered the makeshift command center, his eyes weary but determined. Once a brilliant aerospace engineer at NASA, he now dedicated his life to understanding and countering the alien technology that had so quickly overwhelmed human defenses. "We've got something," Kai said, his voice low and controlled. He placed a holographic projection on the central table, a detailed schematic of the Nexus energy harvesting system. Raven leaned forward, her sharp mind already dissecting the intricate design. The Nexus Collective was methodical, extracting Earth's geothermal and mineral resources with a precision that bordered on artistry. Their technology seemed centuries ahead of human capabilities, rendering traditional military resistance futile. "Look here," Kai pointed to a subtle irregularity in the energy transfer nodes. "Their system has a critical weakness. They're so confident in their technological superiority that they've overlooked a fundamental flaw in their quantum energy transmission." Outside, the massive extraction platforms continued their relentless work. Huge mechanical arms drilled deep into the Earth's crust, sucking out resources with mechanical precision. Alien workers, tall, silicon-based beings with crystalline exoskeletons, moved with calculated efficiency. Commander Zoran, the lead overseer of Earth's occupation, watched from his elevated command module. His species, the Nexus, viewed planets as mere resources to be systematically consumed. Humanity was nothing more than an inconvenient species that had been quickly subdued during the initial invasion. What the Nexus didn't understand was the human capacity for adaptation. While they saw surrender, humans like Raven and Kai saw opportunity. "The quantum resonance frequency," Raven muttered, her fingers flying across a custom-built interface. "If we can create a targeted disruption." Kai nodded, a rare smile crossing his tired face. "Exactly. Their entire harvesting network relies on a delicate quantum entanglement. One precise intervention could cause a cascading system failure." Their conversation was interrupted by a series of coded signals from their underground network. Reports came in from resistance cells across the globe, small groups of humans who refused to become mere cattle for the alien harvesting machines. In London, a group of former telecommunications engineers had been repurposing satellite networks. In the Brazilian rainforests, ex-military personnel had established hidden communication relays. In the mountains of Tibet, scientists were developing unconventional counter-technologies. Humanity was not dead, it was merely waiting, learning, preparing. Commander Zoran, meanwhile, remained oblivious to the growing undercurrent of resistance. His reports to the Nexus Collective continued to paint a picture of complete planetary submission. Occasional human resistance was quickly crushed, or so he believed. What he didn't see were the countless small victories. A communication network rebuilt, a piece of technology reverse-engineered, a critical vulnerability identified. Raven looked at Kai, a spark of determination in her eyes. "We're close to something big. The Nexus thinks they've won, but they have no idea what's coming." As if in response, a distant explosion echoed through the ruined city, another small act of defiance, another spark of hope in humanity's fight for survival. The silent invasion was about to get very loud. The underground bunker beneath what was once the Chicago metropolitan area pulsed with quiet intensity. Sofia Rodriguez moved between makeshift workstations, her hands never still. A former military communications specialist, she had become the nervous system of the global human resistance. Holographic maps flickered with coded information, small dots representing active resistance cells, blue for communication networks, red for potential threat zones controlled by the Nexus Collective. Each dot represented hope, each connection a lifeline. Transmission incoming, called Marcus Way, a young communications expert who had been barely a teenager when the invasion began. His fingers danced across quantum-encrypted communication panels, intercepting and decoding signals that would have been impossible just a few years ago. The Resistance had learned quickly. The Nexus might have superior technology, but humans possess something far more powerful: adaptability, creativity, and an unbreakable spirit of survival. Sophia leaned in, her dark eyes intense. The transmission was coming from the Pacific Rim Cell, a group of engineers and scientists who had been working on a specialized electromagnetic disruptor. If their calculations were correct, they might have found a way to temporarily blind the Nexus harvesting platforms. "Confirm the frequency modulation," she instructed Marcus. The young technician nodded, his fingers moving with practiced precision. Across the vast underground network, similar scenes were playing out. In the depths of the Andes Mountains, a team led by Diego Ramirez was developing biological countermeasures, studying the alien physiology to find vulnerabilities. In the cold tunnels beneath Siberia, a group of former nuclear scientists worked on energy manipulation techniques that could potentially interfere with Nexus power systems. The Resistance was not a unified military. It was a living, breathing organism, decentralized, adaptive, impossible to completely crush. Back in San Francisco, Raven Martinez received the encrypted transmission from Sophia. The quantum frequency analysis looked promising. If they could create a targeted disruption in the Nexus energy harvesting network, they might be able to create a window of opportunity. "It's not about winning in a single battle," Raven explained to Kai Nakamura as they reviewed the data. "It's about death by 1,000 cuts. We're going to make their occupation so inefficient, so costly, that they'll question the value of keeping Earth." Kai nodded, his engineering mind already calculating potential cascading effects. "Their technology is advanced, but it's also complex. Complexity brings vulnerability. We just need to find the right pressure points." Meanwhile, in the Nexus command module, Commander Zoran remained unaware of the growing threat. Occasional reports of minor human resistance were dismissed as insignificant. The collective had conquered countless civilizations. Humanity was just another species to be catalogued, harvested, and forgotten. But humans were different. Humans didn't just adapt, they transformed. In the underground resistance cells, young people who had grown up under alien occupation were developing skills their parents could never have imagined. Children learned quantum encryption before traditional mathematics. Teenagers understood alien technological principles as second nature. The invasion had not broken humanity. It had forged a new kind of human, more resilient, more innovative, more united than ever before. As night fell over the ruined cities, the Resistance continued its work. Soft lights of computer screens, the hum of modified communication equipment, the quiet dedication of those who refused to surrender, these were the new front lines of humanity's fight. Sophia looked up from her station, a rare smile crossing her face. "We're getting stronger," she whispered to Marcus. "They have no idea what's coming." Outside, the massive Nexus harvesting platforms continued their mechanical extraction, blind to the storm brewing beneath their very foundations. The Resistance was preparing, and when they struck, the Nexus would never see it coming. The Atacama Desert Research Facility was unlike any laboratory the world had ever seen. Carved deep into the rock, protected by layers of electromagnetic shielding and quantum camouflage, it represented humanity's most ambitious technological project since the invasion. Dr. Elena Ortiz stood before a holographic display, her weathered hands moving with the precision of a surgeon and the passion of an inventor. Around her, a team of the world's most brilliant minds worked in near-silent concentration. Physicists, engineers, biotechnologists, and programmers from every corner of the globe united by a single purpose: to find a way to fight back. "The biomimetic interface is stabilizing," announced Hiroshi Tanaka, a robotics expert who had spent the last 3 years developing what could only be described as a hybrid technology. Part biological, part mechanical, the device represented a radical approach to understanding and countering Nexus technology. Alina nodded, her eyes never leaving the holographic projection. The device before them was more than just a weapon. It was a statement, a declaration that human innovation could compete with alien technology. The Nexus Collective had always viewed humans as a primitive species. Their invasion had been swift, almost casual in its execution. Massive energy platforms had appeared overnight, draining Earth's resources with clinical efficiency. Resistance seemed impossible against their advanced technology. But humanity had a secret weapon: desperation-driven innovation. Quantum entanglement is holding at 78%, Hiroshi reported. The device, a complex network of bioengineered neural interfaces and quantum processors, was unlike anything the Nexus had encountered. In the early days of the invasion, human technology had seemed laughably inadequate. Conventional weapons had been useless against the Nexus energy shields. Military defenses crumbled within hours. Governments fell. Civilization as they knew it collapsed. But survival is the most powerful motivator. The biomimetic interface was proof of that motivation. It could theoretically interface with Nexus technology, understanding its core principles from the inside. More importantly, it could potentially introduce systemic disruptions that the aliens couldn't predict. "We're ready for the first full-scale simulation," Alina announced. The room fell silent. Years of work, countless sacrifices, multiple failed attempts, everything came down to this moment. Back in the San Francisco Resistance Base, Raven Martinez and Kai Nakamura watched the live feed with bated breath. They understood what this meant. This wasn't just a technological breakthrough. It was humanity's first real chance to fight back. The Nexus had made a critical mistake. In their overwhelming technological superiority, they had underestimated human adaptability. Each failure, each lost battle had been a learning opportunity. Humans were absorbing, analyzing, and reimagining alien technology at an unprecedented rate. Quantum synchronization in 3, 2, 1, Hiroshi's voice was calm, professional. The holographic display erupted in a complex dance of light and information. Intricate patterns of blue and green intertwined, representing the interface between human-developed technology and captured Nexus systems. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the display shifted. Complex alien algorithms began to warp, to bend, to transform. The biomimetic interface wasn't just reading the Nexus technology, it was beginning to understand it, to predict it, to potentially control it. Alina allowed herself a rare smile. "We're in," she whispered. Across the world, in underground resistance cells, in hidden laboratories, in makeshift communication centers, humans watched and hoped. This was more than a technological breakthrough. This was the first true moment of hope since the invasion began. Commander Zoran, in his elevated command module, remained blissfully unaware. The Nexus Collective had conquered civilizations for millennia. They had seen resistance before. They would see it again. Or so they thought. Humanity was about to prove them wrong. The night was alive with tension. In the abandoned subway tunnels beneath what was once Tokyo, a different kind of warfare was about to begin. Akira Nakano moved like a shadow, her modified quantum disruption device tucked carefully against her side. Around her, a small team of resistance fighters prepared for what could be humanity's most audacious mission yet. The biomimetic interface developed by Dr. Alina Ortiz had given them more than just hope. It had given them a weapon. "Transmission confirmed," whispered Marcus Way through the encrypted communication link. "Nexus energy platforms are showing minimal active defense protocols in Sector 7. Raven Martinez's voice came through next, crisp and calculated. "Remember, this isn't about destroying their technology, it's about turning it against them." The plan was elegant in its complexity. Using the biomimetic interface, the Resistance had discovered a way to not just disrupt Nexus technology, but to fundamentally reprogram it. Each energy harvesting platform was essentially a massive computer, and computers could be hacked. Deep beneath the surface, Commander Zoran continued to oversee Earth's systematic resource extraction. The Nexus Collective had perfected planetary harvesting over millennia. Civilizations were resources, planets were datasets. Resistance was an anomaly to be quickly contained and eliminated. Akira took her position near the primary transmission node, a massive underground hub that connected multiple Nexus energy platforms. Her hands moved with surgical precision, connecting the biomimetic interface to the alien network. "Quantum synchronization initiated," she reported softly. What happened next was unlike any previous Resistance action. Instead of a violent attack, the interface began to speak the Nexus technology's own language. It didn't destroy, it transformed. Energy pathways began to shift. Extraction algorithms started to modify. The very core of the Nexus harvesting system began to change, almost imperceptibly at first. Kai Nakamura watched the real-time data stream, his engineering mind tracking every minute change. "We're not just disrupting," he muttered. "We're rewriting their entire operational protocol." The beauty of the plan was its subtlety. The Nexus would not immediately recognize what was happening. Their own technological arrogance would blind them to the slow, systematic reprogramming occurring within their most critical systems. In the Atacama Desert Research Facility, Dr. Alina Ortiz monitored the global network. "Quantum harmonization at 62%, she announced. "The interface is maintaining structural integrity." What the resistance had created was more than a weapon. It was a technological virus that spoke the language of the invaders, that could infiltrate their most secure systems, that could turn their own technology against them. Across the globe, similar operations were taking place. In the mountains of Peru, in the vast underground networks of Eastern Europe, in hidden facilities across Africa and Asia, resistance cells were implementing their carefully coordinated plan. Commander Zoran's first indication that something was wrong came as a subtle alarm on his primary monitoring system. A slight irregularity in energy transfer rates. A microscopic deviation in resource extraction algorithms. "Anomaly detected," his AI assistant reported. But by the time the Nexus realized the true extent of the infiltration, it would be too late. Akira allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction. Humanity had been viewed as a primitive species, easily conquered, quickly subdued. But they had discovered something the Nexus had forgotten: the true power of adaptation. "Transmission complete," she whispered. The first phase of humanity's counterattack was underway, and the Nexus would never see it coming. The world held its breath. 36 hours after the initial interface infiltration, the first signs of systemic collapse began to emerge in the Nexus occupation network. It wasn't a violent explosion or a dramatic shutdown. Instead, it was a slow, methodical unraveling that would become known as the Great Deconstruction. In the primary Nexus command center orbiting Earth, alarms began to sound with increasing frequency. Commander Zoran watched in growing disbelief as extraction platforms across the planet started to malfunction. Energy transfer rates became erratic. Resource collection algorithms began to introduce unexpected variables. "Explain," he demanded of the central AI system. The response was both chilling and unprecedented. "System integrity compromised. Fundamental operational protocols are evolving." Raven Martinez stood in the San Francisco Resistance headquarters, watching multiple holographic displays tracking the global network. Beside her, Kai Nakamura and Sofia Rodriguez worked frantically, monitoring every microscopic change. "It's working," Kai muttered, his fingers flying across the quantum interface. "They don't even realize what's happening." The biomimetic technology developed by Dr. Alina Ortiz had done more than just infiltrate the Nexus systems. It had begun to rewrite them from within, using the aliens' own technological language against them. Each energy harvesting platform became a potential point of systemic failure, a seed of rebellion planted deep within the invaders' infrastructure. In the Atacama Desert Research Facility, Alina watched the global network with a mix of scientific fascination and human determination. "Quantum harmonization at 94%, she reported to her team. "The interface is maintaining structural integrity and continues to expand." What made the Resistance's approach so devastating was its fundamental nature. They weren't just fighting, they were transforming. The Nexus Collective had conquered countless civilizations. They viewed planets as resources, species as data points to be processed and consumed. Their technological superiority had always been their greatest weapon. Now, that same technology became their most significant vulnerability. Akira Nakano, who had initiated the first infiltration in the Tokyo subway tunnels, coordinated with resistance cells globally. Each group was a node in a living, breathing network of human innovation. They weren't just fighting, they were evolving. Commander Zoran realized the true extent of the threat when the first energy harvesting platform completely shut down, then another, and another. "Impossible," he muttered. But humanity had made the impossible a reality. The Resistance had studied the Nexus for years. Every failure, every lost battle had been a learning opportunity. They understood the invaders' technology at a level the Nexus could never have anticipated. More importantly, they understood something the aliens did not: the power of adaptive intelligence. Sofia Rodriguez's communication network began to light up. Reports came in from around the globe. Resistance cells that had been hidden, waiting, preparing, now sprang into coordinated action. In the mountains of Peru, a team of biotechnologists used the compromised Nexus systems to introduce specialized nanites that began to repair environmental damage. In the Australian outback, former mining engineers repurposed alien extraction technology to restore ecological systems. This wasn't just a war of liberation, it was a war of reconstruction. Global system degradation at 62%, the Nexus AI reported to Commander Zoran. Operational protocols are changing. For the first time, Zoran felt something akin to fear. The Nexus had conquered civilizations for millennia. They had faced resistance before, but never like this. Humans did not just fight, they transformed. Dr. Elena Ortiz understood this better than anyone. The biomimetic interface was more than a technological breakthrough, it was a philosophy of survival. Each failure was a learning opportunity. Each challenge was a chance to grow, to adapt, to become something new. Quantum synchronization complete, Kai announced in the San Francisco headquarters. The final phase of humanity's counterattack had begun. Across the planet, Nexus energy platforms began to shut down, not through violent destruction, but through a systematic reprogramming that turned the invaders' technology into tools of restoration. Extraction became regeneration. Consumption became creation. Commander Zoran watched in disbelief as his entire operational network began to disintegrate. The Nexus had always viewed technological superiority as their greatest strength. Now, it became their greatest weakness. Raven Martinez allowed herself a moment of reflection. Humanity had been pushed to the brink of extinction. They had been viewed as a primitive species, easily conquered, quickly subdued, but they had discovered something the Nexus had forgotten: the true power of adaptation. Transmission complete, Sofia Rodriguez reported. The invasion was over, the reclamation had begun. Humanity had not just survived, they had transformed. And the universe would never be the same.